We're taking a look at the clashes between the police and the people they're sworn to protect, with questions of race and inequality swirling at the center. But the answers are not always black and white. Our Byron Pitts delves into these thorny issues with a personal journey to his hometown of Baltimore for the first installment of ABC's week-long series, Race, Justice in America.
Once again tonight, as temperatures fall across America,
no peace.
Tempers are rising.
No.
Protesters scream.
Justice.
Parents pleading. The mother of that black 12-year-old boy killed in Cleveland, gunned down by a white policeman who mistook the child's toy gun for a real one. The moment caught on surveillance.
What would you like to see happen right now?
That the police be accountable for what they did to my son.
Die ends for New York's Eric Garner. Hands up, don't shoot for Ferguson, Missouri's Michael Brown. Sports stars like LeBron James making their own statement. In these cases and others, the optics scream America's old wound of race and justice has been reopened. Again today, the president weighed in, this time on black entertainment television.
I want my grandsons to be treated like anybody else's grandsons.
But is it that simple? Eric Garner's widow said no on Meet the Press Sunday.
I don't even feel like it's a black and white thing, honestly.
If what has our nation convulsing from New York to L.A., Washington to Atlanta is more complicated than race, no place is it more complicated than Baltimore, America's 26th largest city. The political and the powerful pass it by in the comfort of fast-moving trains. Be more, my beloved hometown, known for the Inner Harbor, the Orioles, crab cakes.
Turn around.
And for better or worse, HBO's The Wire. An edgy police drama, a supposed fictional look at a city ravaged by crime and corruption after all those with means to leave did. Much of what The Wire portrayed is real.
This is the area I grew up in. My old high school's over there, Archbishop Curley High School.
I go home to Baltimore often.
What role, if any, does race play in that dynamic here in Baltimore?
We absolutely have to let race go. Like we often joke that when nobody's white, nobody's black, we're all blue.
Excuse me. I did speak, and I did ask you a question, right?
Distrust between the public and police is palpable.
They don't look at us as people. They just see the uniform and see police officers.
We spent several days and nights with cops on the street. A call goes out for a cop in need of backup. Plainclothes and uniformed officers speed to the scene, guns drawn. Turns out it was one teenager stopped on suspicion of drug possession. That show of force made neighbors livid.
The people, the innocent bystanders, and I mean like the pedestrians that want to stand around and walk through, we get harassed the most.
There's such a police presence in this area because it's so violent. He actually really didn't need 20 police officers there, but everybody came.
That's Lieutenant Joel Fry. This is his unit.
And you make no apologies for that show of force, right?
Absolutely not. I mean, because our safety is paramount. I mean, I've seen plenty of police get hurt and even killed because we didn't have that show of force. And I'm not going to apologize for it.
Lieutenant Fry is white. Baltimore is a predominantly black city. But it turns out here the tension isn't just race. The police department is 41% black. The police commissioner and the mayor, both African American. And look at this. One of the many cameras set up across the city captures a black police officer punching a black man. The officer was charged with assault and is now on leave. The latest in a series of questionable encounters. The city of Baltimore has paid out $5.7 million in the last 4 years to settle more than 100 cases of alleged police brutality.
Is it black and white or is it black versus blue?
I think it's a little bit of both.
That legacy of race still exists?
It does. It does. The level of trust has increased, but it continues to take dips down.
A lot of people are doing the sort of things that need to be done.
Like me, Kwesi Nfume grew up in Baltimore. He's seen the city from many vantage points. A high school dropout and former gangbanger, he went on to graduate college, becoming a U.S. congressman and national president of the NAACP.
I've never been to a city in America where there seems to be as much animosity as there is between the citizenry of Baltimore with the Baltimore Police Department. How do you explain that?
I explain it through history. We had some tough police commissioners who would bust your head, throw you in jail, plant drugs on you, lock you up for no reason.
Yeah, Camden Park, that's over here. This area is gorgeous.
A big part of Police Commissioner Anthony Batts' job is to change that narrative. The former police chief of Oakland, he came to Baltimore 2 years ago.
I think in certain parts of a community we're seen as occupying army. We got to be honest and open about that, and we got to change that. And what I have to do is give the officers the skills and the abilities to start shifting and changing that, opening up conversations, communication, and you hear me say this a lot, and listen to the people.
Betts was hired by Baltimore Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake. A native Baltimorean, she sees the connection between crime and public mistrust, but also a shrinking city and shrinking resources. In the past 50 years, Baltimore has lost nearly 1/3 of its population.
You drive through Baltimore, it is heartbreaking what you see. How do you explain that?
It's not rocket science. We've had years of disinvestment, years of flight. It should not matter what neighborhood that you grow up or that your parents live in. That should not determine your ability to go to a state-of-the-art school, and that's what we're going to have for Baltimore's kids for now and in the future. So we have to do that in order to attract families and to make sure that families stay in Baltimore.
Economics and education aside, public safety is still her biggest worry.
There's some things that you get a do-over. And with the homicide, you don't. If you lose a life, that life is gone. And I know what it's like. My family's been impacted personally. My cousin was killed last year.
Adult male shot in the back of the head.
There have been 200 homicides in Baltimore this year. Most often the victim and the perpetrator are black. During our ride-along, it didn't take long to come across our first murder scene of the night. A man shot to death at a gas station.
They're still collecting evidence and trying to get witness statements to find out exactly what happened.
Not far away, another man shot in a park. The victim's brother showed up.
Justin?
No, not right now.
Their voice is rarely heard on the national stage. Instead, they seethe in small community hearings. Here, a family grieving over a relative killed in police custody lashes out at the mayor and police chief. The anger not over racial bias, but a perceived abuse of power. To a proud son of this city, the discourse is heartbreaking, and there is so much work to be done. But I see hope in the smallest of ways.
Which is your husband?
I met Dale Hargrave. We graduated high school the same year. After a career in the military, he moved back home.
What do you make of what's going on here?
I like it. I think it's a long time coming. We worked hard on trying to get developers, big and small. It's been very successful. I know some people still have misgivings about gentrification and all that.
But he proudly welcomes his newest neighbor.
So this is a 3-story house.
37-year-old Shea Frederick is an engineer. He bought his house for $9,000.
This will end up being a big master bedroom with a master bath.
It's an investment like Shea's that will help make change.
This is likely a drug house or a drop house.
Definitely was. I probably took a good 5-gallon bucket of crack vials out of this house.
Wow.
I found a double-barrel sawed-off shotgun in the wall just back there.
In the wall?
Yeah.
Usable?
Well, it was a little rusty, but I imagine it could have been.
Like many corners of America, my hometown has its own troubled history with race and justice. But there is a sense here things are improving. The racial divide still exists, just not as wide, nor as deep.
For those who would say there were deserts in Baltimore before you got here, there'll be deserts when you leave.
I hope when my time comes that it's a better police department serving the community in a better way, and it will grow. Then the next person comes on and they will build upon that foundation, and then the next person will build upon that foundation. And hopefully in the next 20 or 30 years is that I get to prove you wrong when we come back and you say, I don't think Baltimore can do this. And I can say, your Baltimore, where you were born, has done this.
In Baltimore, I'm Byron Pitts for Nightline.